What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. I'm the founder of Infertile Millennial, and today we are doing another episode of Infertile Millennial. Today is one of my favorite types of episodes, and that is Reddit stories about infertility, and not just Reddit stories, but am I the asshole board stories. Those are my favorite. It is one of my favorite things to do, to relax, to unwind, is to read those stories. But before we get into it, this does contain talks of infertility, fertility, treatments, miscarriage, stillbirth, all things like that. So if that is triggering for you, then this is probably not the episode for you. If you're not familiar with Infertile Millennial, it is a support platform that I started in 2020 after my first miscarriage. And it is to support those who are going through infertility, fertility treatments, and things like pregnancy loss, grief, and everything like that. I spend most of my time on Instagram, but I do also have a Facebook page, a website, gift shop, and this podcast here. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, story number 1. Am I the asshole for lying to family and friends about who's the infertile one between my wife and I? Strap in, you guys. My wife, 32 female, and I, 32 male, had been married for 7 years and been having unprotected sex for 3 years trying to have a baby. It has taken a toll on our marriage, and I admit that many times I have complained to family, friends, and coworkers about my wife's infertility. What I thought was my wife's infertility. This man's trying to tell us that he didn't know, and he was just blaming his wife. Maybe it's because we live in Utah, but whenever the idea of us being infertile came up, people just swarmed in giving my wife recommendations to fertility specialists. You guys know I hate this. I mentioned it in a previous episode. It is so weird how people just assume that it's the woman's fault or problem, whatever, like right away. They never go to the man. They rarely ask who it is, which you shouldn't do anyway, but they always assume it's the woman. Anyways, back to the story. The talk was always, oh, my wife saw a doctor, whatever, and we ended up having twins, or maybe your wife is just too stressed out. Probably by the amount of people who are out here blaming her, but whatever. And I believed it because my wife contracted TB when she was 20 and volunteering in another country. Her primary care, who she saw when she was back home, just flippantly told her that TB could affect the genital area and prevent her body from housing a baby. But obviously he said it in medical lingo. We finally find a doctor who straight up told us that there was nothing wrong with her fallopian tubes or her endometrium. She suggested I get tested to see if I'm the one with the problem. The verdict came back that I'm the one with very low sperm count. I was so shocked and went to get another opinion, which told me the same thing. I felt so shaken, and because a lot of people knew about our struggles, they also knew we went to a doctor again. At a family and friends gathering, people started asking me about what we found out, and I just panicked and said that my wife's TB was likely the cause, but not 100% necessarily. People saw that as my wife being the problem, and somebody even suggested I go through with divorcing her since I was 32 and complaining about being childless, saying I could be a dad within a year since it was a short marriage. I mean, the idea that people are like, I'm just gonna throw this marriage away because we can't have kids is mind-boggling to me. It's like, why'd you get married in the first place? What I did not realize was that my mom and aunt would jump on that suggestion and start telling friends and their kids that I was getting a divorce and that this was my wife's fault because she shouldn't have been so reckless when she was young. What was worse was some people thought it was even TB. It wasn't even TB, but a bacterial genital disease. This all got back to my wife through a friend, and she is furious. As she should be. She said that she could not believe I've been painting her as the problem when she wasn't even the problem, and that she was tired of the pitying and disapproving looks she was getting in our small town, and that I needed to set the record straight or at least tell everyone to shut up and that we were not divorcing. Am I the asshole? I panicked and felt like I didn't completely lie because TB could be exasperating our problem, but my mom really screwed things up by making it malicious. Now I'm in over my head and really feel bad. You should feel bad, and honestly, I don't even think it was your family or friends' business to know that she had anything like that affecting her fertility. That should be personal. If she wanted to talk about it, I guess I don't know. Maybe she did want to talk about it. I don't know. We'll get into it. Okay. My thoughts are, I hate when people just assume that the infertility issue lies with women and how quickly people will swarm and give the woman advice when it isn't her body. Even if it is, I hate that people think we're running around out here looking for unsolicited advice, especially from people who aren't my doctor or who have not gone through it. And again, like, I don't know if this couple, said that they want advice from people. I have no idea, but that's just my opinion. I also hate that this man is out here blaming his wife for fertility issues and calling it her infertility. It's both yours. You're in a partnership. Like, yes, physically, whose body? But when I see a partnership, when I see my marriage and all that, we look at it as our infertility always. Because without him, without me, there isn't, any baby, any moving forward, unless we chose to do a donor. And that's a whole other topic of conversation. But yeah, I think, look at it as yours. I hate that families are like, oh, it's hers or his, whatever. That bothers me. I also can't believe how gossipy his family is and how quick his family was to knock her down and put her value as only valuable if she can provide him children. I think that's disgusting. And I can't believe he has the audacity to not stand up for his wife and admit what he really knows, and that he is still blaming her after knowing his diagnosis and saying that her TB could be the cause when the doctor told him she's all good. He's still putting that in his mind of well, it could be. And it's no, a doctor literally said this is that. Finally, him lying and not defending her, in my opinion, is grounds for possible separation, maybe divorce. I don't know. That's disgusting behavior. So, continuing to spread lies about her, and then it got so bad that, that town is talking about her body is so weird to me. So let's read top comment. By the way, this guy was voted, you're the asshole, obviously. Top comment, you're basically blaming your wife for the fertility problems from the start. You have never defended your wife from the bad comments that your friends and family have made. After finding out that the problem is you decide not to take responsibility and not to be honest and continue your lie by making excuses that it was a moment of panic. I hope your wife divorces you. She deserves a husband who defends her and loves her. Is a piggybacking comment, so the one below it. So it's, and to let them come up with the lie that it's actually a BC, or that it's actually because of an STD, and then doesn't correct them, holy hell. Letting a lie snowball like that, I cannot imagine just letting my family do that to my partner. That is crazy to me. They say, to be fair, I knew you were just an all-around asshole as soon as I read this gem. Quote, I admit that many times I complained to family, friends, and coworkers about my wife's infertility. I would never complain about my husband's infertility. I don't complain about it to people. I don't blame anybody. I cannot imagine doing that. That's really sad. Complained as if your wife was a defective car and you paid full price. Well, you know. So reading further, it wasn't much of a surprise to find out that you're a liar to boot too. Oh, and too much of a coward to tell the truth after you lied about your wife, but I guess it's pretty scary to admit the issue lies with you when you're hanging with a bunch of losers who apparently think infertility is a character flaw. Thank you. The only part that did surprise me was where you report that your wife said you're not getting a divorce. If I was your wife, I'd plaster your results all over social media and put you in the flying monkeys. You call a family on blast. You're the asshole. Congrats, biggest one today. That story blew my mind. I read it months ago and I literally saved it in a document because I knew this guy was going to end up deleting the story. I'm pretty sure he did. Probably out of embarrassment, but all right. Anyways, I want to know what you guys think of each story down below in the comments. I just want to hear your thoughts and your opinions down below. Let's move on to story number 2. Story number 2. Am I the asshole for telling my sister she's better off being infertile? Despite trying to conceive for years and having no success with her husband every month, my sister, 31 female, felt like a supreme disappointment. Her head knew she was not at fault, but she was saying that not being able to give her husband the gift of children, which is seen to most people as a wifely duty, made her feel broken and not whole. Finally, she consulted her doctor, only to be diagnosed with endometriosis. A simple surgery, which was scheduled for last week, which, hold up. It's not always a simple surgery, and I hate downplaying it. It can often be very difficult. It might be simple in the medical world, but it does take a toll on your body. Was supposed to correct the problem. She was ecstatic, only to come out of anesthesia and be told by the doctor that he is sorry, but children would not be an option. As you can imagine, she felt devastated by this news. Yesterday, I went to visit her to try to lift her spirits. I told her how incredibly sorry I was, but then I also added that being infertile may not be all that bad. Raising kids isn't all sunshine and roses. There is added stress, expensive sleep deprivation, and time commitment. I told her to look at all the unhappy couples with kids and that at least, I hate that sentence, at least, she and her husband would enjoy some extra freedom. After these comments, my sister's sadness turned into anger. She started shouting at me and told me to leave her house. She had also informed our mother because she called me later to tell me that my comments were disgusting and I should feel ashamed of myself. I feel like me trying to help my sister only made the situation worse. Am I the asshole? I bet you all have an opinion. My thoughts before we get into top comment. This post is littered with toxic positivity. Look on the bright side mentality is gross, especially when someone is grieving or just found out life-altering news. Toxic positivity is anything that basically tells you to look on the bright side, it's invalidating, it's judgmental, and it's not helpful at all. Like, you are allowed to feel the emotions that you feel. It can be as bad as it is, whatever. She claimed she was saying she was trying to help her sister, but I don't see any compassion or empathy in this. I see the silver lining mentality. I feel like that has to stop. It's not helpful in situations that involve life-altering news and probably many other things. I just don't like that. I don't see compassion. There's no stepping inside her shoes. It's trying to find something good out of something bad, and it's you can do that if you dropped your sandwich on the floor, but not when it comes to infertility. So they were voted the asshole, right? Yeah. So top comment. You're the asshole. Don't ever again in your entire life invalidate someone's grief and anguish by pointing out lying, fake, bright side so you don't have to feel uncomfortable about their feelings. Would you say losing your husband to cancer isn't that bad? You can find someone else to fuck? To a widow? Would you say, is it really that big of a deal having both your legs cut off? Now you don't have to buy shoes to an amputee? Would you say, hey, being in agonizing pain 24/7, 365 isn't terrible. Now you get to take opiates to someone with chronic pain? No, you would not. You ground dirt in her wound and made things that much worse for her. You weren't trying to help her. You were trying to stop her from making you feel bad. You did very wrong and you must apologize. Oh, and stop it with the look on the bright side crap. If someone is grieving, validate their grief. Don't make up crap to explain to the stupid dummy that they shouldn't be grieving. And to add, the point is there is nothing you can ever do or say to make a grieving person feel better. Words don't help. You can, however, make them feel worse by invalidating their grief, by pretending that it isn't a big deal. They're overreacting, there's a bright side, etc. That's what I'm trying to say. Using this bright side stuff, it's never helpful. Seriously, just being oh, I'm so sorry. Is there anything I can do to help you? I'm always here. Whatever. Yeah, this was I chose this post because it was such a great example of toxic positivity, silver lining, look on the bright side. We hear this all the time struggling with infertility. We hear this all the time after miscarriage. It's not helpful. It's seriously careless, because I like what they point out about this is they're saying people only say this to each other because it makes them feel comfortable and it helps them out. But really, you're not helping the person who actually needs the help. So that was pretty crazy. And I have a feeling I already know how those of you struggling already feel about that one. So moving along, this next one is really, really interesting. This is going to be story number 3. All right, moving along to story number 3. Am I the asshole for canceling a check for $12,000 that I wrote for my infertile friend for her next IVF cycle over a joke? I, female 35, am infertile. My ex-husband and I tried everything to have kids, but it just never happened. He divorced me, went and married someone younger who was able to give him a kid, and from what I gather, they're expecting a second child. It hurts like hell seeing someone else have what I couldn't. I get frustrated with myself sometimes and with family blaming me for basically everything. I turn to my friends for support, especially Alicia. She's in the same infertility boat as me, but she and her husband are currently trying IVF hoping it would work. Alicia asked me for help to pay for her upcoming IVF cycle. I agreed to write her a check of $12,000. I really wanted to help her, and the money came with no strings attached. I wrote the check and gave it to her last week. She was very appreciative of it. The next day, I got a sudden message from a mutual friend, Carol, with a screenshot of the conversation she had with Alicia. Turns out that she and Alicia were talking about the next IVF cycle, and Alicia said she'd hoped the cycle would work because she, quote, didn't want to end up divorced and having her husband go marry someone younger and have a baby with them and another one on the way, while she's alone and without family at 35. She's 32. I was stunned and hurt. I knew she meant me here, but I did not confront her. I simply contacted my bank and canceled the check in the evening. Alicia called to ask why I canceled the check, and I told her. She went batshit, saying she didn't mean that, and she didn't mean it that way, and she thought that this was somewhat an inside joke between desperate, infertile women. She came over with her husband the next day begging I write another check, but I refused. An argument ensued, and her husband thought I wasn't being supportive of her like when she supported me throughout my struggles. She left crying, and we haven't talked since then. Her husband keeps reminding me, while repeatedly calling Carol a toxic snake, of the date of the next cycle. They can't have it after I took the money that was supposed to pay for it back. Some friends think I'm being oversensitive. Carol's on my side telling me to tell them to go to hell, but I feel so bad about it. What I've done might just damage our 15 years of friendship. Maybe I shouldn't have canceled it, but I just felt so offended by what she said about me and how she basically mocked my unfortunate circumstances. So Reddit, am I the asshole? And now she actually does share an update as well, so I'm going to read that. Hello again, and wow, thank you so much for all the support and compassion that you've shown me. I could feel it through my screen. I've decided I'm going to put some distance between me and Alicia. Things have been rough lately, and I think that distance is what I need right now, especially for my mental health. After reading some comments here, I now feel I feel less heavy and more relieved. Doesn't change the fact that I'm still feeling completely and utterly shocked by her behavior. It's a shame having to come to the realization that those who are supportive of you the most could cause as much harm. Oh, and by the way, I sent Carol a link for this thread to see what her thoughts were, and she just laughed. She was kind of angry I used her real name, but relieved that I used a throwaway. All right, so these are my thoughts. I think it's gross how much value someone puts on women on whether or not they can or want to have children. We are more than our bodies. We are human beings. And I hate seeing stories about husbands who leave their wives because they can't have children or vice versa, because I don't know about you guys. Like, yeah, I wanted to have kids, but I didn't marry my husband for the sole purpose of having children. I married my husband to marry my husband. I did not marry him for the sole purpose of having a baby. So I really hate, of course that can be something that beforehand you can agree to, but I just don't agree with it. I really don't like when we put value on women's bodies and what they can do. I also think that I'm on her side, as clearly this woman thinks less of her friend for not having children, and it's clearly using her for money. She is not a genuine friend, in my opinion. I would love to hear you guys' comments below, but let's get into the verdict and top comment. So, top comment, not the asshole. I think overall she was voted not the asshole, by the way, but let's get into top comment. It was a cruel thing for her to do, especially after you're being so gracious towards them. By the way, just a reminder, your worth is not connected to your ability to bear children. So yeah, edit to add, thanks for the rewards. Oh, and to the people saying that worth kinda is tied to children, especially as a woman, no, it's not. Anyone telling you different is just wrong. You decide what your contribution to this world is, what your legacy is, and from what I hear, OP has the biggest, kindest giving heart while still having strong moral values that make her worth a lot in my book. Anyone who doesn't see that is just blind and oblivious. I'm sorry if you've been told that your worth is tied to your body and what you can give to this world as a woman with your body. It's not true. You are more than your body, and you are worth whatever you contribute to this world. I love this comment. I wish I would have written it myself because I just purely love and believe that. Let's see. We are headed to story number 4. Am I the asshole for not sympathizing more with infertile people? Oh yeah, okay. So I added this actually recently because I really liked the comments. And this one is going to create a lot of heat. So strap in, you're going to get mad. So I have autism, and when I'm upset about an argument, it can turn into an unhealthy obsession for days. I had a discussion weeks ago on Facebook that led to me obsessing for days because people saw me as a bad person. It was on Facebook group about the show This Is Us. The character Kate is trying to get pregnant. Some fans irrationally hate her and botch about her a lot, but I do not hate her, but I may have mistaken as one of those people. I stated that I have trouble empathizing with Kate because there are so many children out there who need parents, and that I hope the show would address this perspective. It eventually did. I acknowledge that maybe I was an asshole, but the more pushback I got, the more defensive and extreme I became with my viewpoint. I tried to let it go, but kept seeing people say things like Kate is experiencing most women's worst fear by not being able to have biological children. I'm sorry, but if that's someone's worst fear, they need to get a fucking grip. To clear some misconceptions people probably had, I don't think it's wrong to have biological children. I don't think it's wrong to want biological children. I'm aware that there are various reasons people who want to adopt can't. I realize adoption comes with its own set of issues. I have no issue with people who do both. I just can't muster much sympathy for someone who is in despair and feeling like their life is ruined because they can't have children when there is a child out there in equal despair because they don't have parents. People attacked me saying I didn't know what it was like to struggle with infertility. Well, I also don't know what it's like to be a child who needs a home, but I bet they don't either. I was accused of having no compassion by people who said truly selfish things like, why should I adopt when I have other options? Maybe because helping someone in need isn't all about you? In a world with overpopulation, we as a species should be intelligent enough to say we don't all need biological children just because our bodies are making us want them. We should have enough compassion for others to say adoption will be my first choice, or at least higher on my list of options than a last resort because there are children in need. If I'm wrong, I was clearly coming at it from the perspective of a group in need. I weigh an orphan's child's need for a home above some person who is well off enough to consider having children want for a biological child. I don't understand how people act like adopting is a lesser option, but then claim they would love an adopted child equally. How am I lacking compassion here? I want people who are in a position to have children to treat adoption as more of a last resort because they aren't the only ones suffering and are clearly in a position to help someone who is suffering. It is selfish to despair over a problem that can be solved by helping someone in need, and yes, contrary to what these people thought of me, I have been deprived of things that were extremely important to me, and I will probably have fertility issues due to medication. That was a lot, and I know you guys are probably feeling a certain type of way reading this, hearing me say this. Let's just get into top comments. I didn't even weigh in because I'm just angry reading this. I think you can already know what I would say, but top comments. Comment number 1. You are not exactly an asshole, but there's a huge thing that you and all of the commenters are missing. When people are upset about being infertile, it isn't, oh, I needed someone of my own DNA, I'll never get over this. We are biologically designed to have children. It is the entire purpose of our biological makeup. To find out that you are incapable of doing your biological purpose, you feel like a failure. You feel worthless. You feel so badly about it looking at yourself in the mirror and it makes you sick. You feel like you've not only failed yourself, but everyone else in your life as well. Infertility is an enormous toll on your psychological state. You can't help but blame yourself for something that likely isn't even your fault. You'll be mad at yourself for being a failure and your doctor for telling you and your significant other for getting your hopes up and everyone with children for rubbing their happy families in your face. Don't have sympathy for someone who thinks adoption isn't good, but you should have sympathy for someone who is struggling to come to terms with the fact that their body is failing them and going through one of the roughest times of their life because of it. That was a great, well-worded comment. Let's get to comment number 2. You're the asshole because you're trying to tell other people that their struggle and desires aren't valid. It's not as simple as, well, I want biological kids, but technically adopting would be better, so I'll just do that. Infertility is more than just, I can't have biological kids. For you to say that people's struggles and despair about it is something they should get a grip on is just cruel. That's what I've been saying, that's what I've been preaching. Let's move on to comment number 3. You're the asshole. Can you tell he was voted the asshole? You're the asshole, and I say this knowing I used to be the asshole. I always thought the same thing, that if I couldn't have kids, I should just adopt because there are so many kids that need a good home. And then I found out that I have a fixable fertility issue. I have a very high chance of miscarrying any baby I have, but it's surgically fixable. I can't explain to you the emotions and pain you go through finding this out. You do feel like a failure and broken for a woman. You do worry about missing out on being pregnant in that experience. You question yourself on whether you will bond the same with a kid that isn't yours. You investigate adoption and find out how challenging, expensive, and time-consuming it is. You weigh costs and sanity. You worry how the struggle will impact your relationship with your partner. It's not an easy answer. This is a place where you simply can't make a judgment. How you think people should feel versus how they actually feel are two different things. And that's sort of what I said in my last episode. I basically said that I think people make these assumptions so easily because they've never had to be there, because the option was always available. So you can't fathom what it will actually be like and feel like when it's taken away from you. Just as any other medical condition I can't fathom, and I don't know what it's like because I've never been there. And once again, this is infertility being treated as something other than a medical diagnosis, than a medical condition. It bothers me so much that there's just this sort of get over it mentality when it comes to something like this. And I'm sure there's a lot of other medical conditions where this is treated that way. Yeah, I hate how flippant people are about it, of the just get over it, and I can't be on your side because there's always an option, because in the future I have this entire basically post that I found about how difficult adoption truly is, and I just feel like people don't understand, and maybe 10, 20 years ago was easier, is a lot different now. I highly recommend you educate yourselves and you look into it before making assumptions. Moving along to story number 5. Am I the asshole for refusing to accommodate my infertile neighbor? Sorry for the formatting in my writing. English is not my first language. My husband, 29 male, and I, 28 female, have been living here for 5 years, ever since we married. Our previous neighbors were an adorable couple in their 60s to 70s. We had a fairly good relationship and was kind of sad when they left. This year, I gave birth to my son, 6 months. When my new neighbors, let's call them Paul and Anna, moved in, I was 2 months pregnant. We weren't friends, but we would say hi to each other here and there. I sunbathe every day. It's something I've been doing since childhood. I was a very anemic kid, and my mom made me do it to help with my anemia. I don't even know if it works, but it is a habit that it helps me start my day. This was not a problem until my pregnancy became apparent. The left side of the yard has 2 kinds of fences. One low that used to have a hedge on the neighbor's side that they cut off, and one taller in the rest of the backyard. It's hard to see it from the ground, but they still can see our whole yard and part of our main floor from their second floor. When I was 5 months pregnant, Paul told my husband that my sunbathing was making them uncomfortable. I sunbathe in shorts and a tank top, nothing out of the ordinary. I just ignored them and kept my routine. The following month, he did it again. Until my 8th month, I was back from a walk with my husband and Anna was in the front of the house. Hence, she saw me, she stormed inside and slammed the door. The following day, Paul came to our house and told us they have fertility problems, and seeing me pregnant was making her heavily uncomfortable, and I was an insensitive bitch. Currently, I'm working from home and the baby is close to me in the playpen in the living room. And we have another in the backyard on the terrace. So I can have him close when gardening or just playing with him. Well, I made his wife uncomfortable again yesterday. I was in the living room playing with the baby when he knocked. He asked me to move from the living room because his wife could see me from their balcony. I told him to tell her to look in the other direction and leave me alone. Today, my husband and I were grilling some meat in the backyard. The baby was hungry, so I started to breastfeed. When I looked at their house, Anna was on the balcony. She went in, and a few minutes later, Paul was at our door again. I gave my son to my husband and answered the door. Paul went off on me breastfeeding in public, again, in my own fenced-in yard, and being inconsiderate. When he finished, I told him to leave us alone, don't knock on my door again, and if his wife is so upset over seeing a baby, she needs therapy, and not him harassing my family. And I will do everything I want in my own home. At the time, I felt justified, but I was venting with my mom, and she told me I was wrong, and I couldn't understand because I've never suffered from infertility, and I need to apologize. So, am I the asshole? Edit. I sat down with my husband to talk about the precautions. I was so annoyed that I wasn't thinking about the risks. We will be installing cameras and taller fences. Unfortunately, their vision from the balcony will stay the same because the city won't let us build taller than 4 meters. But this will always help anyway. I called my dad to get some help with the fence, and he ended up talking to my mom. She called and apologized. She suffered from infertility and postpartum depression. When I spoke with her, she felt Anna's pain. But she also remembered some crazy things she did at the period and gave some extra precautions to take. About the restraining order, we called our lawyer. He told us to get footage because until now, we only have our word and other neighbors' testimony. And if he shows up again, to record it and call the cops. If he came to my house 5 times, to call the cops each time. But still, will be hard to get one. So, my thoughts. You are responsible for your own triggers. This couple who is pregnant and has a baby is not doing anything wrong. They're not rubbing anything in anyone's faces. They're literally just going about their lives. And they're in the privacy in their own home. And even if they were in public, she's doing nothing wrong. If she was breastfeeding in public at a mall, a park, whatever, she's doing nothing wrong. Her walking around pregnant in public or in her own home, she's doing nothing wrong. There are going to be many women who get pregnant around this neighbor, and so this neighbor needs to figure out how to cope with her fertility journey and all of the triggers that she has. There is a huge difference between someone bragging about their pregnancy and children to someone who's infertile and someone who's just going about their daily lives. So I think not the asshole. But let's read top comment. Top comment. Not the asshole, this isn't your problem. It sucks for them, but are you really going to stop being a mom at certain viewpoints because they can't have a baby? She needs to stop looking at your home, and that's that. Not the asshole. She needs a therapist, and you need a restraining order. And then finally, someone else says, not the asshole. Document everything and file a restraining order if this behavior continues. This is harassment. You are not being inconsiderate for living your life. The world does not stop spinning because this couple can't have a baby. And as somebody who's gone through infertility for many years, I 100% agree. She's doing nothing wrong, and you can't hide the fact that you have children from every infertile couple. Like, you're not doing anything wrong in this scenario. So, moving along to the last story. This is story number 6, I believe. And this is, am I the asshole for ruining a friend's surprise twin pregnancy reveal by giving a heads up to my husband? I, 30 female, am married to 37 male, wonderful husband. We've been married for 6.5 years and we don't have kids. Currently, we're in a friend group with 3 other couples. I'm not going to name names, so let's say couple A, B, and C. Couple A has 2 sons. Couple B and C are currently pregnant. Wife of couple A always thinks that when we visit them, we should take care of their children as they need time to relax, and always hands their 2 kids to me and my husband. Couple B was always asking if we were okay after they revealed their pregnancy. They made us feel comfortable, and they never talk about pregnancy. When they asked me to be the keeper for their baby gender and help them with the gender reveal party, I was happy to help them. When couple C fell pregnant, they were showing that they were pregnant from day 1. They shared their pregnancy news when they were 6 weeks. Now they're 14 weeks pregnant, and they want to do their gender reveal at the end of October, and they want me to do the gender reveal. And when they shared that they're having twins yesterday and wanted me to keep it a secret until the gender reveal, it hit hard and it made me emotional. And told my husband on the way home that they were having twins and I don't want him to get startled at their gender reveal. Let me explain why he might be startled at the party. We suffered many miscarriages through our 6.5 years of marriage. First one was 2017 at 19 weeks. second one in 2020 with twins at 8 weeks, and 14 weeks with our third one in March of this year at 9 weeks. Last miscarriage happens days before couples A's second son was born. We were quite devastated on losing our baby in March. We informed all of our friends through text that we were miscarrying and that we needed time to heal. Around that time, couple B fell pregnant, and they were very considerate about our feelings, so they didn't reveal their pregnancy and told us at the end of July. It was hard for us, but we were happy with them. For them. Couple A and C have never considered our feelings and only think about theirs. We went to visit couple A's baby when it was 11 days old, and she handed me her baby and disappeared for an hour and a half. It was hard, but I held him and cared for him. After coming home, I cried holding my husband. She never asked us how we were feeling or if we were okay. When she tells us to look after them, we do that and never say anything to them. It's hard for us to take care of the babies because we haven't healed through our losses. We don't say a thing and just look after their kids. Couple C is having bad pregnancy symptoms and always says that I'm having a hard time with this and I don't want you to have these types of symptoms when you get pregnant, even though she knows my history. Today, I told couple C that I told my husband that they were having twins and I needed to consider his feelings. They accused me of ruining their surprise and I didn't consider their feelings. Am I the asshole for telling my husband? Update. Firstly, I want to mention that why I told couple C that I have told my husband about the twins. She called me every hour or so saying, "Don't tell your husband," and "We want to see his face," and other friends' surprises face. I just nodded for 3 to 4 times, but after that it was hard. And I told her that I told my husband I had to tell them about their twin pregnancy because it would be triggering for him. And I don't want him to feel that way in front of 50 people. For him, it will trigger some memories which we don't want on the happy day. I wanted to be on the safe side and to have to look for his well-being, and that's why I told him. After that, she flipped and started crying and told me that I'm selfish. Her husband also joined and started telling me that I'm stuck in the past and that I have to let it go, and they clearly told me they wanted a surprise and I ruined it. I told them that I told my husband for his mental health and he's not going to tell anyone about it, and ended the call. Couple C called today and started telling how she wants her gender reveal and how to surprise everyone. And I told her that I'm no longer comfortable doing the gender reveal and to ask a different friend if they'd like to do it. She then started to tell me that I'm a selfish bitch, how I'm only thinking about myself and not them. I kindly told her if you were in my place, what you would feel, and you would tell us every day that you were going through so much pain and nobody understood you. Just in case, let's say if you lose your twins, I don't want you to lose them, but imagine how you and your husband would feel. First, think about that, and after that, if you want to call me selfish, that I'm okay with that, and ended the call. For couple A, I'm not contacting them and just staying silent for now. For couple C, I just want them to understand that this is a big deal to lose a child, and I cannot let it go. And I can't just simply let it go. If they're still inconsiderate about our feelings, then I guess it's time to rethink the friendship. My thoughts. I think OP is doing a really great job trying to be there for her friends while also struggling in her own grief. On the other hand, it seems like she's putting her healing and mental health on the back burner because she seems to not be able to draw boundaries well with her friends and stick to them. Now, this is before I read the update. It sounds like she actually is able to put her foot down. I don't think she's being selfish. It sounds like she still wanted to support her friends and go to the gender reveal, but no longer host it. And that to me is going above and beyond in their time of grief. That's just my opinion. But let's get into top comments. So top comment, info, that doesn't change my judgment. Why do you just accept being handed a kid if it's causing you distress? A simple backing up and saying, no thank you, would suffice. Sometimes I do think that's easier said than done because then you kind of go into that whole like, well, why not? And I don't know. But I do understand, yeah, you do need to start saying, you know what, I'm uncomfortable with this because this is just a boundary that I have. I don't mind being around your children, but I don't want to take care of them for the next hour while you are MIA. I don't know. Next comment, not the asshole. I think your husband needed to have this information. It's not like he shared it with anyone else. Honestly, I'm amazed at the selfishness of these so-called friends asking OP to plan their baby events when they know what her and her husband have been through. Next comment, not the asshole. Telling just your spouse is not ruining the surprise for anyone but your spouse, and they should know why this wouldn't be necessarily a happy surprise for him. I honestly think it's a little callous for either B or C to ask you to be involved in their gender reveals given your experiences, and a little flexibility on their part to ensure you and your husband are in the right headspace is not too much to ask. There's a difference between being a completely selfish, unsupportive friend and being someone who needs to draw boundaries for their own mental health. I can't even believe that this couple thinks they're being selfish for just warning her husband ahead of time by, hey, they're going to announce a twin pregnancy, and I know our twin pregnancy was very difficult on you to lose. I just want to give you a heads up so that you can either step away while they announce it, or just so that you're aware. And quite frankly, I think it's wild that they're even going to attend this still. To me, that says they're really great friends. They don't even have to attend this, in my opinion. They could just say, hey, this is really difficult for us. I'm sorry, I can't do this. And the friends should also have enough to realize, have enough, clear-headed support to be like, no worries. If you can't attend, I totally understand. But the fact that these people are still going to go and they're still being called selfish is so mind-blowing. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. But that is it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope your blood didn't boil too much from some of these stories. I want to hear your thoughts on every story. Maybe if you have a similar story to one of these stories, you can put it down below if you feel comfortable sharing it. But that is all for today. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give it a thumbs up, and comment. It helps with engagement to push it out to others who may want to hear these stories or don't know about this resource and platform. And it also helps educate those who may know someone going through these problems. Make sure to share the podcast wherever you need to either educate or raise awareness. And I thank you guys so much for supporting Infertile Millennial, and I will see you next time.